Welcome to Sports Connections with David Smale, a podcast that brings fun and interesting connections throughout sports. As an author and sports journalist, David has been interviewing fascinating people in sports for more than 40 years. Now here's your host, David Smale.
In 1968, as a sophomore at the University of Houston, Elmo Wright led the nation in yards per reception at a whopping 27.9 yards per catch. Overall, he was third in the nation in receiving yards with 1,198. When the All-America teams were announced, his name was nowhere to be found, so he went to work. The next season, he increased his number of receptions from 43 to 63, the eighth most in Division I. He remained third in receiving yards, increasing that total to 1,275, and his 20.2 yards per catch was 11th best. Again, when the All-America teams were announced, crickets. Heading into his senior year, he knew he needed to do something to attract attention because Houston was not affiliated with any conference. Right. So he created the end zone dance, the first player in college football to do so. The result? He was selected first team All-America the next season, despite the fact that his receptions were down, his yards were down, and even his yards per catch were down. They were still very respectable, but they were down, but he got first team All-America, and he finished his career with an amazing 21.9 yards per catch average, including 3,347 yards and 34 touchdowns in 3 seasons. And he was the number 1 pick by the Kansas City Chiefs, 16th overall. Played 4 seasons with the Chiefs, where he got to use his end zone dance in front of a much bigger national audience. He's a great storyteller, as I know from many, many years ago, and we'll get him to share some of his stories playing college and pro football. Elmo, welcome to Sports Connections.
How you doing, Dave? How you doing?
I'm doing well. This is so much fun to reconnect with you after, I won't say how long. It's been a few years.
It's been a few.
For sure. So let's start with the end zone dance. I think that's what you are most known for. Just start with when you got the idea to do something to draw attention to yourself.
Well, it's a little bit more. In Houston, people knew the story. Nationally, they didn't.
Right.
It actually, a fellow by the name of Homer Jones, football player.
Right.
For
the Giants.
He played for the Giants. And I think what happened, one of the players on the Giants threw the ball in the stands. And so Homer got excited, and then he threw it in the stands. But the referee got mad at him and told him, don't do that anymore. Homer got upset. And the next thing he did was throw the ball down in the end zone. He started throwing the ball down in the end zone. So spiking the ball, that's when that started.
Sure.
So nobody was doing that. So what happened is when I got to Houston as a sophomore, as you were saying, I tried to do something a little different. I was in the band from the 3rd to the 10th grade. That's what I did. I did not go to PE like other kids went to the PE. Instead, I went to the band hall every day from the 3rd to the 10th grade. So I was kind of an entertainer mindset, you know. And so I was in the band watching football from the 3rd to the 10th grade. And I said, you could tell whether something was exciting or what, you know. And one day, I'm trying to make this a little shorter. The guy said, Elmo. And I turned around. He had thrown a football and it hit me in the mouth. Blood went one way, teeth went another way, went all over the place.
Oh,
I said, my goodness. And then I realized that even though I had the mindset of a saxophone player, I couldn't put the sax piece in my mouth. So I had this brain of all those years of skills, but I couldn't do anything. My band director, next morning, I thought he would tell me everything would be all right, but instead he whipped me. He hit me about 25 times with a board, and that's when I quit the band and started playing football, right? So I was this entertaining mindset is what I'm trying to say when I started playing football. I was lucky. I played my first year as a wide receiver. This was back in the day, civil rights era. Schools were segregated at the time. So I'm playing for a black high school. It was the first year this team won the state championship, and I made All-State my first year.
Wow.
Everybody on that team was saying, what?
Yeah.
And then the schools integrated. And it was the first time the integrated team won the state championship. Guess what? I made All-State again. So I had no idea, but that was me trying to be an entertainer. I tried to follow up with Homer Jones, and the NCAA stopped throwing the ball down because a lot of kids were doing that, and the referee had to go chase the ball. It's not like a basketball, right? You know about basketball. but the football would bounce all over the place. Kids that were copying me, so they just outlawed it. And now you asked about the dance. So everybody was asking me, "What are you going to do? What are you talking about? What am I going to do?" You know, I had no idea. I knew if I said anything, someone else would copy before I did it, so I wasn't going to say anything. And um, I can't think of the guy's name. Named Steve. Played for Florida. He was an All-American, by the way. Uh, we were both Playboy All-Americans. Went to Hugh Hefner's pad up in Chicago, and we were talking trash around the deal. And he said, you're not gonna catch any passes on me." And I was telling him, "Passes? What are you talking about? I score touchdowns." you know. And so we had this thing going. And so when we played against, it was Florida, by the way, University of Florida. Steve Tannen is his name.
Okay.
Tannen is a great guy, by the way. He started with he was drafted by New York Giants and played well and a whole bit. This is just one game, you know. And but anyway, they threw me a ball, and he tried to catch me, and my legs came out of his grasp. I turned up field, and as I was going down the field, the people from Florida started booing me. And I had about 10 or 15 yards left to go. They were just booing me, and because no one else was near me, so I was just going. David, you would understand that I was studying Don Quixote. His mindset he had an imagination, right? so, so I was saying to myself, they love me. They really love me. That's a true story. So when I was booing, they were like throwing stuff at me. It was awful, man. They never seen anything like that in sports. How dare you do something like that? You know what I mean? But anyway, when I got to the sidelines, a couple of teammates were saying, "I can't believe you danced in the end zone." And that's how the dance started, with that statement right there. And so I was thinking, because they booed me, I said, I want to do this again. So my focus was really on trying to catch the ball, right? And so I caught it a couple more times, did a couple more dances. And Bill Yeoman, my coach, we lost him a few months ago, by the way, Bill Yeoman. Mm-hmm. And he told me, you better think about it. I'm not so sure you really want to do that. And I said, yes, I do. And so I had no idea they would even throw the ball to me, by the way. So I'm just talking like that, you know. And so next thing I know, I was catching balls and I was dancing. And Dave, I can share something with you real quick. It was years later that I was talking to someone who had maybe some psychology in their background. They used the term endorphin. Endorphin?
Yeah.
It's a chemical release in the brain that makes you feel a little, they say it's a natural high. It can take away pain, that type of deal. Mm-hmm. And I experienced, I said, this is true. So yeah. when I was dancing in the end zone, it felt good. That's how I can explain it. And most of the people who were telling me don't dance, they never danced in the end zone. Yeah. You know, but I knew what it looked like because Bill Yeoman was assistant coach to a guy named Red Blake, West Point.
Yeah.
And so was a fellow by the name of Vince Lombardi.
Yes.
They were both assistant coaches together. So football was kind of like a military model, you know, throw the bomb, you know, blitz, air attack. And all these guys, especially at West Point, they would train them to be leaders that were going into the military. So all the other colleges all over the country were copying those guys. And so here I come dancing in the end zone. You don't get a grenade and throw it in a gunnery and blow it up and then do a little dance and then run back to the foxhole. You don't do that, Elmo.
Yeah.
But Dave, I realized that especially back then the way I was thinking, by the way, I was an electrical engineering major and all. I was thinking, this is not the Army. This is not military. This is a game. Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. But everybody around me was thinking, no, this is like war. It's war. We're going. I said, I know what war is. Yeah. A friend of mine, not only a friend, but a first cousin of mine, a fellow by the name of Jeremiah Woodard, my first cousin, went to Vietnam. And he talked about Vietnam. So I know the difference between a soldier and a football player.
Right.
And I took offense at the idea that you would say we're like soldiers on the football. We're entertained. We have skills that we're demonstrating to play a game and win with points, and that's what kind of what we do. But we're not. Give me a break. It's all about the entertainment. I probably, if Bill Yeoman had said stop, I would have stopped on a dime. If Hank Stram would have said stop, I would have stopped on a dime. But they realized what was going on because I remember Hank telling me, he says, just get in the end zone. Just score, baby. And I said, this guy understands because to get that natural high, I had to get into the end zone and what a player does, even in his career in high school, and he's getting in shape in the off season, and many times he has injuries, and finally he gets in a game and they work out a game plan and he's in the game, and they put him in a situation where he is advancing the ball, and his fans are cheering him on, and so is his teammates. That's a different kind of mindset. I mean, most people don't experience anything like that. Maybe in high school and college a few, but the average person in life, they don't see anything like that. And again, I only had 2 years of high school. I wasn't trained earlier. I didn't really know. I was always in avoidance mode, trying to, like I said, these guys would get tackled and go, yeah. And I was trying to avoid being touched,
Yeah. Yeah.
You understand the difference? So for when I got into the end zone, I was like really, really happy. There was a guy, you appreciate this. And I forget what game, it was in a dome stadium, by the way. This guy said to me, he said, Wright, if you dance on me, I'm gonna break your neck. He was defensive back. He was defensive back. And yeah, it got my attention too, because nowhere in my career was I taught to fight. You saxophone players don't So I hadn't learned how to, fight. So I thought I would do the brain thing on him, right? So I said, hey man, come here, I'm gonna talk to you. And he wanted to fight me as I was talking to him. I said, come here, let me say something. I said, here's the deal. Whenever I get on the end zone, they put it on television. If you follow me into the end zone after I score on you, you're going to be on television tonight. But if you stop me from going into the end zone, neither one of us is going to be on television. So follow me after I get into the end zone so you can have a little TV time with me. That guy was he looked at me like I was star crazy. But what he was doing was he was firing me up. Yeah. Because I knew I was going to play harder against him than I had anybody recent. And so I think I'm going to score about 3 touchdowns on him. But it was to get back to the end zone dance. Some people would ask me, do you dance? Do you score because you want to dance, or are you dancing because you scored? Yeah. And the real answer is I'm not really thinking about anything prior to actually getting into the end zone. And once I got in the end zone, I felt so good, I danced. Yeah. And you will see this, or notice this. I began to see it off the field. I saw some commercials, national commercials, with someone doing a dance. I saw there was a couple of doctors beyond borders, something like that. Okay. And they showed these guys on a microscope cutting the little fingers of these guys from Latin America somewhere, and you could see the big fist and the little baby's fingers, and they were cutting it. And once the operation was over with, you could see the two of them do a fist bump. And I said, even the doctor beyond borders got it figured out. Yeah. So I knew that if the real trick and I would always tell this to my family. I generally don't. I can be honest with you. This is my first podcast. I don't really get talk about it at this level. With you, I want to open up as much as I can to your satisfaction. I can't. The telling that story and trying to get the young people to do it involves saying you got to set goals. Yeah. Well, but it's more than that. That's what I bring to the table. It's setting goals in such a way that if you achieve that particular goal that you design, it would make you what? Want to dance, want to celebrate. So it's not just setting a goal. it's designing a goal that would just say, man, if I did that, you know, and I've had the benefit of that all my career since college. You know, I went back to get my MBA. Oh man, once I finished that, I went, yeah. And I realized I didn't have to be in front of a crowd to do that. And dancing to me is all over the place. That's what I want to bring to you is that it's not just the end zone dance. It's called the end zone dance, but the weirdest one, and you're gonna say, Elmo, you crazy. The weirdest
Oh,
one, yeah, you are. The weirdest one was when I was walking out the house, walking out of the funeral home from my mother's wake.
hmm.
And when I got to the door going out, I felt, felt like I wanted to dance because I thought all she was going through, she's now in heaven. That's the biggest end zone in the game.
There you go.
You see the photo of it. So
Absolutely.
I was thinking the endorphins was going off like that, and I said I could never explain that to anyone. But that and it with my father the same way. He was in such agony and pain about he passed away about a year ago, and I could look at him and I was thinking, I know he's going to have a big dance. It's going to be some dancing. I can see this, but I knew that uh, the endorphins reduce pain.
Yeah.
I knew that was the key, but the idea of a goal, all his life, he wants to go to heaven. That's all his. That's what he, his whole deal. I say, at some time in the future, he's going to get in the end zone. You see, so I watch people do that. You tell me you wrote what about 20-some books?
Hmm.
Yeah, think about that for a second. Most people have trouble writing a paragraph. So you have to be motivated to complete one book, two books. You see the point I'm making? So if Dave called me and said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you," guess what? I'm showing up. I'm showing up.
You've obviously got that entertainment mindset, and like I said earlier, I've known you for almost 50 years now,
Yeah.
and I've always known that you had that entertainment mindset. Did it ever bother you that you were more known for the dance, the celebration, than you were for all those yards, all those catches, all those touchdowns? Did it ever bother you? And if so, why? If no, why not?
Well, in a way, back in the day, I never thought about it. It was
Really?
only later on that when people would talk to me, they would say, "Hey, about the dance in the end zone," and I would think, "Hey, man, when I was in college, I studied electrical engineering. I was an academic All-American studying electrical engineering. This was during the civil rights period. I was
Mhm.
doing all that confusion. I was still
Yeah.
doing that. And but what happened is, I don't think my the best way I can explain it is when you do something the first time, they will never break that record. But
Yeah.
at the University of Houston, I had about 23 records at the school that I had broken. Probably 20 of them had been broken. I told you I had about 4 or 5 NCAA records that I had broken, including most touchdowns. And I think you found out that maybe I tied that record or whatever. And but guess what? That record, nobody knows me from that record.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Dancing in the end zone, that takes about 2 seconds. Getting in the end zone, scoring more touchdowns than anybody in the history of college ball at that time, that's a big deal. So
Yeah.
guess what? When you have a record like that and you're not the first to do it, it's going to be broken. But if you're the first to do it, and that's what I picked up on years, and I just kind of I went along with it. I go along with it, and then I tried with my daughter, who's in New York, by the way, Eliza. I tell her that she's a psychotherapist, and I tell her you need to do something with that, help people achieve their goals with using the dance, not so much as a showboat as to become famous or anything like
Right.
that, but to have them achieve things that are important to them. Don't just set goals, which is important, by the way.
Right.
Set goals, but I think the real trick is to do it in such a way that just mere thinking about it, it makes you smile. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Can I tell you a secret? I tell you a secret. I never tell a whole lot of people. Maybe 8 or 9, 10 people. I I never missed a pass in my dreams. I'm serious. I'm serious. You think I'm kidding? Never miss one. And 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 I can tell you, say, oh really? Yeah, that's true. And no matter how hard it was, I always caught it, and I always get up and do the dance in the end zone. But what happened is I don't there's one pass in my dreams where the ball was overthrown, and I was running and I went airborne, and I found myself literally flying, standing. Dave say, "Oh, really?" Yeah.
I've had the same dream, and I never did it in real life. So,
and I caught the ball and came down running. You see what I said? I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah." So in a game, I had so many catches that I had already dreamed about for years. That when I actually saw a ball, it never really fazed me as a big deal. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not
No, I appreciate that. I want to talk about your football career, and then we'll look at some other stuff.
Okay.
We've had some discussions through the years about some of your fondest memories playing in the NFL, and there's one that I don't remember all the details, but I remember you talking about you realized you were in the NFL when you caught the ball. It was in your hands, and you looked and you saw Pete Rozelle.
Yeah,
that's his name on the football. Just talk about some of your memories of playing in the NFL.
Yeah, the most players probably sense this because most players that get drafted, they're top players, first round draft choices that actually play, right? So when you get when you find out that you're actually going to be playing, you think you have an idea of what it was. But at the time I played, I believe the Chiefs had just won the Super Bowl. I'm not sure.
Yeah, 1 year between. They won it after the '69 season.
Yeah,
and you were drafted
pretty close to it.
71.
So I walked on a team where these guys had just won the Super Bowl. So I had to be pretty humble, you know what I'm saying? So I kept my mouth closed. I was thinking, and then, and then you have guys like you play with guys who are not, their careers are not over with, but there's Lynn Dawson, there's Willie Daniel, there's Buck Buchanan, there's these guys that the young people today have no idea who they are. But can you imagine walking on a team that later on these guys become Hall of Famers?
Yeah.
You were with them when they were developing their Hall of Fame career. That's basically where I saw it. I can imagine just being another way of getting around. I said I had the best seat in the house.
Yeah.
I could go in and listen to the plays of the huddle. I can go to the sideline and look. And that was amazing. That was an amazing deal. Now I was a football player, but I was always aware that this was different. One of the experiences I really appreciated was my first year was the last year of the stadium that did, and that was a big deal because when I tell people, I said, even in college you have bands, right? You have bands. They have big bands in the stand. They go out and march, but the Chiefs had a band in the corner, and this guy had he was like a jazz band. It was. I forget his name, DeSoto or
Tony DePardo and his team band.
Oh, DePardo. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I say, am I the only guy? Because of my music background, I was always called attention when I was listening and playing because I was just thinking, I say, who thinks of this right here, And then they had this horse running out on the deal. It was like, oh, I said, man, this guy, somebody knows something about entertainment, is what I'm saying. Am I making sense? Yeah. How many horses have you seen in any stadium doing that, right? And then Hank was a different character himself. But one of the things that I really remember was, and you would say why, was Lamar Hunt. And a quiet guy.
Yeah.
But people would say, hey, that's Lamar. Who? Where? That's how much attention he would draw. But when you start thinking about who he was and the things that he had done and he's accomplished, it just blew me away every time I saw him. And I found out that he played football at SMU. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. So when he saw me, I'm an All-American, right? I knew he knew what receivers were. I knew he knew, but he respected the team, very quiet guy, and just because I knew there was a life after football, and I kind of watched him. He gave us an opportunity to go to his house. His house, call it a house. It was a mansion. It was a monster house. And at the time, his father was still living. So HL, I think his name was. And so that was something I can't forget. It didn't have anything to do with football itself, but because I was a Kansas City Chief, I was there among all these great players in Lamar Hunt's house, and I was thinking,
Yeah.
yeah, I like this. But the other thing was that I had injuries. I had suffered injuries. Uh, the one that I would go back to college and spare me for giving you the details, but I think about it like this. I say, this is the only time you ever hear me talk like this right here. Is it? I didn't really learn how to catch until maybe a few years, maybe a couple of months playing at the University of Houston. But I missed a lot of balls. So Bill Yeoman says, "Don't don't touch him. Let him catch the ball," which was embarrassing because they had all those alumni and all the he was
Yeah.
watching. And I just knew I was going to miss the next ball anyway. You know what I'm saying? So 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 he said. So I was catching the ball, and this guy hit me anyway, and pushed me into the ball, and it hit my finger. You can't see it. You can't see it. See a mark right there.
Yeah.
There's an operation, and if you see this right, you can actually see it. That's amazing. I think your podcast show a lot of stuff. But anyway, my finger was broken, and it was literally torn off. But between here and here, as I looked at it, it was all bone.
Mm.
Yes, that's what I said. But I didn't feel anything. But it was like, and I was so afraid that I was going to faint. Being a musician, right? So I had to stay. I had to keep my composure as I looked at my ball. So Bill Yeoman said, because I had missed so many balls, he said, "Get him off the field." I was on the ground looking. I couldn't. All I could see was bone, and so that's when I became a little bit more aggressive and more like a football player in that moment, because I said, "I'm not leaving this field till I find my finger." Okay. that, was, that, that, I wanted him to know that there's nobody on this field can make me leave without me finding my finger. I'm not going to walk off this finger with a bone, And so I put it back together, and every pass I caught as a college player and as a pro player was after that deal. And so a lot of times you see the pass when I had my fingers wrapped up, and I only wonder what would have happened if I had my
Yeah.
finger wasn't broke like that. And but yeah, and so just the idea of traveling. Hank was a first class guy. We all wore the uniform, suits together, and respected each other. Never saw a player didn't may have to just let that go right there. Right? And there was so I had to, as a wide receiver, I was playing opposite Otis Taylor.
Yeah.
And when you say that to the young people, they go, "Who?"
Yeah.
They have no idea who this guy is. This guy's, my understanding is Otis not in the Hall of Fame. He's not
No,
in the
he
Hall of
should
Fame.
be.
And it's amazing. It's amazing. All these other players on that same team Hall of Famers, and Otis is not. And but that was like a big feeling to be on one side. You're looking across the deal, and you're seeing Len Dawson, you're seeing all these other guys, and you say Otis Taylor on the other end, and you say, "Man, it's amazing to be in this situation." And Otis would be he would say something like, "Go get it, baby, go get it," and that's all I needed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but again, I had some injuries, and I would always tell people that it was just something that I learned early, is that people want you to do the best you can. They don't want you. I don't care even if you did great, if you weren't doing the best, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So you look at the score and you say, "Man, uh, we lost," and I would think, "But I did the best I could."
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so any job, I took that with me. Just do the best you can, and whether you achieve it or not, that's doing the best. You have an opportunity at that time to do the best you can. Sometimes you actually achieve it, and you do your dance. But the bottom line is never get caught not doing the best you can. And that's all you could ever ask of anybody that's doing something.
Yeah.
And that's and so I'm taking it to another level right now. I'm saying, okay, Dave, let's go. Let's give me.
Well, I want to ask you. I want to ask you a little more about Lamar Hunt.
Yeah,
And I met him a few times. I
yeah,
didn't know him well, but I got to know him, and he was as gracious as you say.
yeah,
One of the things that I learned in doing research for a book on the Chiefs is how integral he was to promoting integration in pro football, reaching into the HBCUs. And one of the things that I heard was that he made every player, black or white, feel like they were part of his family. Do you remember that about him? That he didn't care what color you were. He valued you as a person.
If I didn't respect him, I wouldn't bring him up in the podcast. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
You know? But not only did I bring him up, I told you that he took me to his house.
Yeah.
That's unusual for a multi-millionaire to do. You understand what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
But he not only did that, but you know, same thing. Lamar also, I was inducted into the high school Hall of Fame here in Texas, and I was kind of nervous about that. And overnight I drove to Waco, Texas, and for breakfast I was in there, and I was overweight. I had gained a lot of weight, man, and I was sitting over there, and next thing I looked up, somebody else was coming in, and I thought, man, who's this right here? Then I realized it was Lamar Hunt and the guy, Tom Landry, and so so Lamar had helped, I guess, funded the High School Hall of Fame, right, in Texas, and so I was over there, and I didn't want them to see me, and so the next thing I see, somebody doing like this right here, he was saying, I said, oh my goodness, I leave all these pancakes here and I go over there, and sure enough, he was saying he and his wife were happy to see me. His wife wanted to meet me. That was there. They were talking about me on their way there. You know what I'm saying? And so he's a pro guy, and this is not even college. This is high school.
Yeah.
So the fact that he could come down and let me know that he was interested in witnessing me doing that meant a lot to me. But it didn't surprise me because that was Lamar Hunt. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so he's definitely, I don't really know how much, because everybody in the city knew he was successful and was wealthy. He started out the sports programs. He did all that. But I don't know, I mean, as you just said, I don't know, I mean, if people actually got to meet him personally to actually feel that part. And I also could see that he and Hank Stram had that relationship. And a fellow by the name was Jack Stedman.
Jack Stedman, yeah.
I could see them when they were talking. I was like a player who was seeing other things, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I had my mind on the game, but I knew that this was a one-time deal, and I was watching him. So Lamar Hunt was a deal. And I haven't met his family. I don't know. I think his son took over. I've not met any of those, but I hear the name all of a sudden, and so I'm sure it's the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree,
Yeah, and Clark is very, very similar. He's young. He's younger than I am. And so it's no problem for me to call him Clark. And I've met him a few times in press conferences and stuff like that. But he is very much his father's son. And I've met Lamar Jr. as well, and he's a great guy. So you played for the Chiefs for 4 years, and then you spent your last year between the Oilers and the Patriots. But as you look back on your career, are you a Chief?
There's no question about it. I'm a Chief. There's no question. You draft in the first round, and you go, like as I said, what team can you walk on the field with and see? That's Lynn Thompson. That's Otis Taylor. That's Buck Buchanan. That's Aaron Brown. Those guys was like what I did was I thought it was smart at the time, but it wasn't as it wasn't. I didn't do the research I should have. At the Oilers at the time was a fellow named Bum Phillips. Bum had coached at the University of Houston. And so I thought, I got maybe a couple of years left. I have to get a real job. Let me go down and score a few touchdowns, do a little dance, let everybody see who Elmo Wright's back. I knew that once I left the game, I could maybe have a few interviews and get me a job. And but I was down there for like about 2 or 3 weeks when I just didn't, it wasn't a good fit for the players. Because I negotiated a better deal than the ones who were already there, and they didn't. It just wasn't a good deal, and so I ended up getting cut, and so I went to New England. Another coach, Chuck Fairbanks, was just the opposite. Quiet. Chuck had his office was at the top of the stadium, at the end of the stadium over the goalpost, and he would stand there and you could see him looking at the practice session. But I maybe seen him on the field maybe 2 or 3 times. so, so I couldn't do this right here. The head coach don't even show up for practice, right?
Wow.
But I understood why, because 3 of his coaches became head coaches later on, and maybe I think a couple of them even took that team to the Super Bowl. So he was that kind of guy, and I learned that from Chuck, by the way. And he did respect me. He gave me, and that was the end of the deal. I had I ended up he just gave me 1 year contract, so I ended up trying for the New Orleans Saints. That was the last team I actually tried to make. Hank was the coach at the time.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So when I actually when I went there, Hank being a friend, uh, as well as a coach, he just told me straight up. He said if the limit of players is like 48 or 49, whatever that number was, he said you got the team made. But if it's over that, I can't let you. I promised those players, and I said I got it. So it ended up being the limit. And guess what? I didn't show up for practice that time. When he came back to Houston, when I never talked to him, he called me later on, and, because he had already told me what the deal was.
Yeah.
And but at that on that team was my man Archie Manning.
Mm.
And of course we know Archie with his 2 sons and
Yeah.
what kind of deal they are. But Archie and I played against each other. University of Houston played Ole Miss
Yeah.
a couple of times, right? And so I was recently inducted into the. I haven't. It's in the process right now into the College Hall of Fame.
Right.
And Archie is like chairman of the board of that part of the operation that get the players. So they told Archie I was being nominated and all that, and Archie said he called me and left a message saying, I can't believe that I thought you were already in the Hall of Fame. And so I thought it was funny, and part of it, I really believe this right here, Dave. I really believe this right. It doesn't make a difference. I have no animosity at all. And I believe that because I played in that era, civil rights era,
Mm-hmm.
and was playing these teams, like I said, Ole Miss, Alabama, Georgia, Memphis, Florida State, those teams, and the fact that I was dancing in the end zone, it made it kind of a lot of the older people who were really into the game, who really were soldiers, right?
Right.
They, I think whoever was voting on it probably had an attitude because I mean, you see, here's a kid that no drugs, no jail time, no.
Yeah.
I did all those things that you'd expect, a player to do, engineering. So why would I not go in? And in fact, that if you put me in there 50 years later, my competition is not only the people here, but the people here too. I'm competing against a lot.
Right.
So when I grew up, I never had my mind on being a Hall of Famer in college. That's the point I make. That's the good part about it. And but I think the dance in the end zone full circle came back at least in my opinion, it had that effect. And
Yeah.
And I was told that if I hadn't made it in 50 years, that I could never be considered. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. No.
I'm just saying. So that's but it wouldn't, like I say, because of the virus and everything, they postponed it to next year, I think.
Right.
And but yeah. No, you had asked me about the Chiefs. It was a first class operation. That's the first thing, and it was just fun. I can't explain it. It was just fun. It was a different. It was just. But like I say, if you can imagine, I made that statement. I really meant it when I said I had the best seat in the house. I really meant that, and I can imagine anybody having a better seat. These other guys are really in the game. They really got to go win. We got to go do this right here. And I was thinking, I'm gonna do the best I can. But this is interesting.
I gotta ask you, when the ceremony finally happens and you are officially inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame, after they give you, either unveil a bust or give you a plaque or whatever, are you gonna dance?
Oh man, I don't. You know what? I really, I don't know. I don't really know. Someone asked me that when I was in the high school Hall of Fame, what I was going to do dance, and I made the statement. Now that you make me think about it, I made the statement that I felt like it's such a great honor that I feel like doing my dance, but I didn't think this podium would hold me, so I'm just going to remain calm. I'm just going to remain calm. So But There was a Bill Yeoman's wife, good friend also for many, many years. We lost her also. Asked me to give a speech at a school where kids were challenged.
Mm-hmm.
And so I gave the speech. And as you probably have, uh, and it was on the goalpost. And if it was so many kids, it filled up the whole gymnasium plus the stands. It was a lot of kids, man, at school. And so I gave the speech. And when I finished, there was no, there was no applause. So I said, I guess I blew that. so, so I walk away. I walked away. And so the principal came up to me and said, hold on a minute. We walked back. Then the principal did this to the audience, to the kids. And then they started applauding. The teachers, everybody started applauding. And I was thinking, oh man, that made me feel good. But I realized he made them do it, but it was still sounding real. You know what I'm saying? It was, I said, wow. And then he did this. And that made them, they stopped almost on the dime. And I thought, oh man, he took that feeling away from me just like that. So I said, as I was walking away, this the girl she was limping toward me, and they tried to stop her. And I was thinking, what is she gonna do? Tackle me? So I went toward her. What I'm thinking, for her coming toward me like that, what am I supposed to do? So when I got to her, she says, Mr. Wright, will you do your dance for us? I went, I can't believe this right here. So I went back to under the goalpost, right? Under the not the goal, but the goal. And I spoke into the microphone. I said, I want all y'all to know that what my little friend told me to do was to do a little dance. Whenever I scored a touchdown, I would do a little dance. So she asked me to show y'all the dance. So it went something like this. So I took a few steps out and I started doing the dance. And you could hear the echo of my shoes all through the gym. It was like, and I was dancing. I was dancing. And then I finished dancing. And there was no applause, nothing. I went, man, that's embarrassing. So you know what the end of the story. So I started walking off saying, I'll never do that again. So the principal catch me, pull me back to the deal, and he does this. So they started clapping again. And then he told me to do that. And I said, let me get out of here. I've always taken that with me with the dance. I said, most people get it. Some people don't get it. But as I said, if the best of all worlds, I had some kind of skill set like you that I could explain the value that the dance had with me. It had less to do with the actual dance. Dance itself is those things that you have to do to be successful.
Yeah.
If you want that feeling, you'll do those things. If you don't want that feeling, you're not going to work out. You're not going to run. You're not going to work out. In Brazoria County, you're familiar with Brazoria County, next to Harris County, which is where Houston is. I would leave my house and run to electric pole. Like that's what you see in a rural area, right? And then I would run backwards to the next electric pole. Then I would go sideways to the next electric pole. Then I would go another sideways to the next electric pole. Then I would zigzag back and forth, back and forth. And then I would go backwards again. Okay. I did that until I got to the church. And I was ready to give up football because I was so tired.
Yeah.
And I later found out that it was about a mile from my house to the church. And, but I looked across and I paid a little tribute to him in your podcast. My brother was killed in a car accident 1 week after my freshman year, after I first got to the school. 1 week later, he was killed in a car accident. So this is spring training where I broke my finger, right? I'm getting in shape for that. And I looked over at the church, and you look behind the church, this is where you see in these small churches on the road, they all have their graveyards right next to them. And I saw a fresh grave. And as I got to the church, even though I was so tired, I could literally fall out on the road. I had to keep running. And I kept running, and I was literally crying while I was running. I kept going, kept going. And what happened, Dave, I got to the end of the road. And when I got to the end of the road, I rested a few minutes, and then I jogged all the way back, which meant I had to pass the church again, right? And so I made so I said, I'm not going to ever quit. And I realized that even though I was tired and was worn out, that I didn't have to stop. I realized I could keep going, even though I was,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I had no idea. I mean, I was hurting. I really wanted to quit, and I wanted to quit the game and everything, and my body was killing me, but I could still keep going. I kept doing that. I could do that 3 times a day. So when I got back to Houston, I could run a mile in 4:30, 4 minutes, 30 seconds. I could run a 4:5:40, and that's when my skill set went to a level that even Bill Yeoman didn't know. And I would always go back to my brother's grave to kind of and that's kind of you. I would not tell anybody to go do that drill, but
Yeah.
it turns out that it's one thing to have the skill set. It's another thing to have the condition to exercise, apply those skills. So I had both the condition to run all day long. And by the way, that's why I could tell that guy, I say, follow me into the end zone. Because I wanted him to run with me all the time, right? And then
Yeah.
pretty soon when he got tired, hey, it was over with. It was dancing time then. But I could make him run with me because of that deal. But I knew the average player don't run like that in the summertime. They just don't do that. And yeah.
You talk about skill set. My sports claim to fame is a time in the fall of 1973. I was 15
Okay.
years old. Excuse me. I was 5'2", weighed about 115
Okay.
pounds with limited
I know where you're
athletic
going with
ability.
this. I know where you're going with this.
But I beat a professional football player in one-on-one basketball. Now, I'm not saying that you let me win, but I have to say thank you. So I'll say right now, thank you very much for letting me win, because that's still my athletic claim to fame.
Listen, not this. When you look at the score, you did win. But I always felt, and you feel even as you're talking right now, I won too. Because to get someone to put out that kind of effort, you were really, I remember your hair, it would be, Val said you had hair then, am I wrong or right? And you were really trying hard, and you were really, and that's kind of what it's all about. By this time, I'm a pro player. I know what it means to remember, I already done that mile back and forth and all that kind of stuff. And what I remember from you was that as his kid, he's, and it's kind of had a lot to do with your family. Somebody had taught you how to not. You could have just quit and not played.
Yeah.
But you had that, and that's your same kind of guy that could write 24 books. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So in a way, you did win now, because that's what the score is. But I think I won also, because I could look back and say, yeah, I remember you, man. And I wanted you to know also at that time, a fellow by the name of Elvin Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
Elvin Hayes was a good friend of mine. He's like one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And those guys like that. But you'll see it in the future. You'll see it with your family and all that. It's something about a young person that really, really go for it. You can't stop them. You can't make them quit. You can't hurt them. That's the worst thing you could do. But my deal was I was entertained by the fact that I remember you is what I'm trying to tell you. I remember you, man. But it was because of the fact that you were like, and people, as I'm talking to you right now, people would say, I remember someone like that. They just keep going. They just like, you know what I'm saying? And what I remember was that I said, he really wants some of me. I can't believe this right here. But at the end of the deal, I think we both won.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it being ahead on the score sheet. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, you were not on the score sheet, but you also because you were doing your best. That's the point I'm trying to make. You were doing your best.
Yes.
And that by itself, I think I had something to do with you doing your best. Because if I just act like I wasn't playing, you probably would say, oh, But you remember you were really playing. I said, look at this right here.
All right, I'm going to wrap up with this.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm in Kansas City.
Oh, okay.
We're celebrating last year's Super Bowl victory for the Chiefs. Where
Yeah.
at the time we're doing this, they've clinched the #1 seed. Do you still follow the Chiefs closely, and did you get to celebrate the Super Bowl victory last year?
What I do keep up with them. To be honest with you, I don't follow it as close as one would think that I would follow it. What I've done right now is when I got out of the ball 50 years ago, I tried to nail down another career, and the game of football in itself, I felt like was taking me away from that because I wasn't recognized for what I was doing. I was recognized for what I did all those years ago. But when I see, as you said, watch these young players, plus that young quarterback you got over there.
Yeah.
He's one of these guys that just is something about him. Is something special about him. You see what I'm saying? But you got to remember, I was playing with another guy who had something special, Leon Dawson. You see?
Yeah.
So the fact that he has a whole team of players that have that same kind of attitude, and the coach, yeah. And but I watch them, and I kind of keep up with them, but I'm not one of these guys that sit down at the deal and just really get absorbed in it. I can watch about 15 or 20 minutes of it, and all that comes back. I can't explain it. It's just, yeah. So and I would tell them if I had to, if any of them saw this right here, I say the real game hadn't started yet. The game of life is after you play that last play, that last Super Bowl, that last whatever it is. But you can learn a lot for the game of life from the game that you're playing right now, by setting goals, by working out, getting training, focusing, and all those kind of things. Don't take that lightly. And it's not a bad idea to take notes about your career, do the deal,
Yeah.
But these young guys today, man, they have the media, they have the it's a whole, we didn't have all that back then today because most of them they may have their own podcast, and but I can tell you that the ones that, and I say this right here, I know I hesitate to say it because it's what goes around comes around. You may have noticed that while I said the game takes on after the military model, there's something really true about that, because if you look at what happened to the players end up with these things that these soldiers have.
Right.
Many of them have the same kind of issues. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And many of them have they can't get jobs because they have injuries, like the soldiers have injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And I can go on and on to make sure that's something similar to it. But soldiers, when they first they couldn't find jobs.
Yeah.
And football players couldn't find jobs because these guys, they want to hire them because they think they make millions of dollars. You can't work for me because you make millions of dollars. I can't pay you $1 million. And these players are saying, that must have been somebody else.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. But as what I'm saying right now, they might see it as lighthearted. I'm serious. I'm very serious. They just see themselves as that soldier. And the same thing that's happened to the soldier, it's kind of happened to them right now. And that's kind of sad to say that, because it sounds like I'm putting down sports. I'm not really doing that. I'm saying they treat them like soldiers, but at the end of the day, the consequence of being a military person is worn off on them, because they do the thing, they get hurt, they hit the head. You hear these guys, every play they go 100% bounding their head against these guys. You get a tackle, you got to turn a flip, and he falls down on his head. Everybody go, yeah. But in the Army, the sound of the bullets going off and the whole bit ducking, and all that. I say you cannot give these young kids the idea that the soldiers are less important than a football player.
Yeah.
It's somehow that happens by just the way it is. But these guys who are soldiers, while we're doing the podcast right now, there's somebody risking their life.
Yeah.
Somewhere. And that's what the deal is. I try to take that with me and well as the dance is what I'm trying to say. I may not have explained it as clearly as I wanted to, but daily I think about that. And when you see these guys, you just see them, and then you see a football player, and then you say they won a Super Bowl. What's a Super Bowl in the Army? Where's that? But every now and then you'll see them coming home, and guess what? Boy, they're in the streets dancing. They go crazy. The families, everybody go crazy, you know. And what is winning? What is winning? Yeah, I say in this case here, winning is doing the best you can. It's doing the best you can. You did the best you can. That's fine. And but when I see the Chiefs, no, I'm not. I would be exaggerating if I said no. I watch every play. I know this. I do. I know how to play football, and I can watch just about 20, 30 minutes of it and say, yeah, these guys can still play. They can, you know, and I tell them they need to keep that up because that's what they need to do when they leave the game. They have to play life like they play the game. That's the way I see it.
All right. Well, it has been an extreme pleasure to catch up with you, to share stories with you. As we wrap up this podcast, I'm trying to figure out what dance I'm going to go out in the hallway and do to celebrate a successful interview. So it's great to catch up with you, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks for listening to Sports Connections with David Smale. Make sure to subscribe, follow, and rate the show from your favorite podcast platform. You can learn more about David Smale and his work by visiting davidsmalebooks.com. Don't forget to join us weekly for new episodes. Until next time.